The radio said hold. The map said impossible. But 542 Marines were running out of minutes. One pilot, Olivia, looked at a broken watch, shut off the orders, and aimed her helicopter at the dusty road to hell. This isn't a rescue. It's a mutiny against death. Stay if you can handle what she did next. The desert had no clocks. It marked time with shadows and thirst. Echo Battalion moved out at dawn. 542 Marines, boots biting dust, rifles snug against sweat-darkened straps. Their trucks kicked up pale clouds that hung like ghosts behind them. Someone joked about breakfast, but hunger drowned the humor. By noon, the ridgeline spat fire. The first truck burned like a torch. Gunfire split the dry air. A machine gun burst carved through the second truck's windshield, glass raining on the men inside. Echo scattered for cover, hearts hammering in rhythm with the bursts. They pushed forward anyway. Through crumbling houses, through alleys that stank of cordite and rot. They cleared walls, took positions, returned fire. The map said sweep. The land said no. By nightfall, the wounded lay in lines. They whispered names, begged for morphine that was already gone. Marines pressed rags to blood and prayed the cloth could hold life in place. Radios called for reinforcements. 48 hours, they said. 48 hours became 50, then 72. Then silence, water thinned. Bullets thinned. Hope thinned. One Marine licked condensation from his canteen cap. Another scrawled his daughter's name in the dust. The radio hissed, still holding water. Gone. Then static. Miles away on base, Olivia sat in her bunk staring at her father's watch. The glass was cracked. The hands frozen at 0317. People called it broken. She called it honest. It didn't lie about time. Time wasn't moving. Not for her. Not for the Marines stranded in that valley. Pilots whispered about the route. RPG nests, anti-air, no clearance. Orders were clear. Wait. Olivia hated waiting. Her wallet lay empty on the nightstand. She liked it that way. An empty wallet meant clean choices. Nothing owed. Nothing binding her hands. At 0317, the same false moment every night she stood. Flight suit zipped to the throat. Boots tight. Helmet locked. She walked to the hangar. The ramp chief saw her coming. He didn't ask questions. He just checked her bird. She touched the cross etched in the console metal. Not a prayer. A pact, rotors screamed awake. Dust boiled under the skids. An officer ran barefoot with papers in his hand, shouting her name. She lifted before his mouth made the word, no. The desert opened, dark, silent, full of teeth. At the valley's edge, muzzle flashes burned in swarms. Olivia whispered to the controls, her hand steady on the stick. A voice on the net cracked through static. If you're real, pop smoke. I'm real, she said. 3 plumes of red smoke clawed upward. She dropped her skids on broken rock. Marines surged toward the ramp, carrying rifles, carrying brothers, carrying nothing but the will to live. The first round struck her tail. Sparks leapt like angry stars. She gritted her teeth steady. 30 seconds, she shouted. Mortars screamed overhead. Stone shattered. Dust filled the cabin like breath. 10 seconds. The ramp slammed closed. She pulled the stick. The bird rose a foot, then sagged under weight and hope. She pulled again. That's when the missile streaked in from the east, bright, fast, unstoppable. Olivia had one choice. She shoved the stick forward, mung straight into the fire. The missile shrieked past. It slammed into the ridge and exploded in a fountain of stone. Metal shards rattled against her fuselage. A boot-sized piece punched through the side panel, lodging in the wall. Inside, Marines clung to straps. Eyes wide, faces pale. One whispered a prayer, words breaking like brittle twigs. Olivia didn't look back. Looking back wasted inches. Inches were life. She banked low, hugging the canyon floor. Bullets whipped overhead, tracers like fireflies gone rabid. The altimeter barked numbers. She ignored it. She listened to the engines instead, the deep hum, the metallic vowel. They begged for air. She refused. Not yet. When they cleared the lip, the valley fell away behind them. Silence came sharp, too sudden. Marines slumped, some sobbing into their sleeves. Others stared blankly at the cabin floor. The ramp chief pressed a bandage to a man's stomach. Blood soaked through. The Marine's lips moved, soundless. Olivia caught only one word on the wind. Home. Her watch still read 0317. Time had not moved. Neither had the fear lodged in her chest. They landed at a forward outpost. Men tumbled out, some carried, some dragging others. Medics shouted. Engines screamed. The helicopter sagged, lightened, but Olivia did not power down. Orders would come now. Chains of command, investigations, she knew. She didn't care. Her eyes locked on the horizon. The valley still held men, too many. The dusty road still carried their names. She lifted again before the officer in charge reached her window. His mouth was open, words lost in the rotor thunder. The second run began. The dusty road stretched like a scar. She flew low, weaving through cuts in the land, hiding her shadow. Every ridge looked like a gun barrel waiting to spit flame. Halfway in, the first barrage came. RPGs spat from the cliffside. She yanked left, rotor tips brushing the stone. One rocket skimmed the tail, painting it black with soot. Another missed by a breath. Ghost 1, you're insane, the ramp chief muttered. His hands were steady on the gun, eyes sharp. Bullets answered in bursts. The radio crackled. A Marine voice, thin, desperate. Still here. Ammo low. Water gone. Hold smoke, Olivia answered. I'm coming in. She dropped fast, dust rising like a curtain. The Marines crawled from broken houses, faces streaked with ash. They carried wounded in ponchos, in doors ripped from frames, in arms that shook with exhaustion. RPG smoke curled from the far ridge. Olivia saw it. She had no room to dodge. She shoved the stick forward, skid scraping stone, the helicopter bouncing like a wounded animal. The rocket slammed into the wall behind her, showering sparks. Heat brushed her neck. 30 seconds, she shouted. The ramp filled with bodies, blood, shouts. Men stacked on men, gear thrown aside. The helicopter sagged lower. She pulled, engine howling. The ridge ahead loomed. No altitude. No time. She pushed harder, straight toward the cliff. The cliff filled her view. Rock, jagged, merciless. At the last heartbeat, she yanked the stick. The helicopter scraped upward, rotors throwing sparks off stone. The Marines inside screamed, bodies slamming against straps. They cleared the lip by inches. Behind them, the valley erupted in fire. Mortars chewed the ground where they had been seconds earlier. Smoke chased them, thick, oily, alive. Olivia's arms trembled, but her grip did not. The broken watch burned cold on her wrist. Still 0317, still refusing to move. They landed at the forward base again. More wounded poured out. Medics cursed, shouted, wept. The ramp chief wiped blood from the floor with his sleeve. An officer grabbed the side rail, face red with fury. You're grounded. Do you hear me? She lifted before his words finished. This time she didn't look back at the outpost. She looked only at the dusty road ahead. She wasn't finished. Not while one Marine still breathed in that pit. The radio hissed again. We're down to knives. If you're real, come fast. She pressed the throttle forward. Her helicopter rattled like an old lung, panels loose, tail scarred. She whispered to it anyway, coaxing it forward. The valley opened again beneath her. The sun was higher now, crueler. Smoke curled from wrecked trucks. Bodies lay under tarps too small to hide them. She flared low. Marines ran, stumbling, lifting their wounded with the last strength in their bones. One carried nothing but an empty canteen, swinging it like a weapon. Another dragged a comrade whose boots left dark streaks in the dust. Rounds smacked the fuselage. One punched through the wall inches from Olivia's head. She didn't flinch. She had no room for fear. Inside her chest, she felt the weight of the wallet she had left behind. Empty, free. A reminder that she owed nothing but this, nothing but them. The ramp groaned under the weight of men. More than before, too many. The helicopter's frame screamed. Warning lights blinked like nervous eyes. The radio spat new danger. Enemy armor. Inbound. Tanks. She had no weapons for tanks. She pulled anyway. The helicopter lifted, slow, dragging, like a soul refusing to leave a body. The ridge loomed again. Higher this time. Steeper. Behind her, the sound of tracks grinding stone. She pushed the throttle to the edge. The bird shook. The watch on her wrist stayed frozen. The ridge filled her view, and from the shadow beyond it, something larger stirred. The ridge loomed like a blade. Beyond it, the desert shifted. Not smoke, not fog. A wall of sand. A haboob rising tall as the sky, thick as stone. It swallowed the horizon. Fences disappeared. Trucks disappeared. Sound disappeared. Only the hiss remained. The tanks braked. Steel feared blindness, too. Olivia saw the opening. She didn't hesitate. She aimed her helicopter straight at the storm. The ramp chief shouted, We can't see in that. We're not supposed to, she answered. We're supposed to vanish, and they did. The helicopter dove into grit. The desert erased them. Inside the storm, the world turned brown. The windshield became a wall of sand. Instruments blinked lies. Altitude jittering, speed guessing, compass spinning. Her hand stayed calm on the stick. She flew by feel. By the vowel of the engine. By the breath of the skids brushing gravity. Marines coughed in the back. Sand-filled mouths, eyes wounds. One man laughed, dry, broken, almost happy. The laugh cracked into a cough. It sounded like bones breaking. The watch on Olivia's wrist stayed frozen at 03:17. The watch on Olivia's wrist stayed frozen at 03:17. Time wasn't moving. Only fuel was. The needle slid down. The engine sipped less and less. The tank whispered, almost gone. She pictured the map in her head. A ravine like a scar, a wind-carved arch, a dead tree of twisted iron roots, landmarks you didn't see, you felt. The helicopter dropped 10 feet. Her stomach rose. She caught it, pulled, steadied. She dropped again. Caught it again. The bird shook but obeyed. Then something loomed. A radio tower, invisible until it was too close. She banked, kissed its shadow, barely missed the steel ribs. "Forward base, do you copy?" crackled a faint voice. Half static, half prayer. She grabbed it. "Copy, prepare for Brown landing." "You can't," the tower warned. "Already doing it," she flared hard. The ground smacked the skids. The helicopter bucked once, then sat rattling like old bones. The ramp dropped. Figures ran out of the sand. Medics masked, hands pulling stretchers, grabbing arms, dragging men inside the storm. Marines spilled out like ghosts leaving bodies. Some were carried. Some walked but left part of themselves on the ground. One shoved a bundle of dog tags into the ramp chief's chest. "These," for the ones who didn't make it. The ramp chief's hand shook as he pocketed the tags. Metal clinked like coins no one wanted. Then the load was gone. The ramp slammed. They were lighter, but not light enough. Fuel warning lights blinked red. The engine coughed again. "Shut down," the tower ordered. "Ride out the storm." "Negative," Olivia said. Her thumb tapped the starter like a rosary bead. "I'm not finished." "Orders are," she killed the radio. Silence clicked. She lifted back into grit. The storm shoved her sideways. She used the push, let it fling her east toward the pit. The ramp chief leaned forward. "You're going back now?" "Now is all we've got." The storm thinned. The valley reappeared like a wound uncovered. Wrecks, shadows, red smoke trying to climb but falling back down. She saw it. One last plume, one last breath refusing to leave. She dropped into the pit. The Marines rose. Thin, hollow, but moving. They lifted the last wounded. They carried the last of themselves. Behind them, tracks clattered. The tanks were closer. The storm couldn't blind them forever. Olivia's helicopter sagged with the weight. The ridge loomed. The gun on the lead tank swung like an eye. It blinked. Fire leapt. The shell came screaming. Straight for them. She had one slice of a second. One coin left to spend. She shoved the stick and straight into the path. The shell missed by a breath. It chewed the earth where she had been. The blast lifted the helicopter. Metal rattled. Marines screamed. She was lower now. Too low. The skid scraped dust. Engines coughed smoke. "Power!" The ramp chief yelled. "I'm giving it everything." The helicopter shook like a dying heart. The gauges screamed red. Fuel needle quivered at empty. The storm's tail swept the valley. Visibility cut down to arm's length. The tanks hesitated. But they did not stop. Tracks ground forward. Olivia had one option left. The dusty road that led out of the valley. It was straight, narrow, exposed. A death sentence if she stayed low. Unless she could make the road fly. She dropped skids onto it. Wheels bounced on cracked asphalt. Dust swallowed them whole. For a moment, the helicopter became a truck. It rattled like bones in a tin can. Then she pulled. The road lifted. The road grew wings. They were airborne again. The Marines cheered, hoarse, broken. One clutched the ramp chief's sleeve. "We're really leaving?" The chief said nothing. His jaw was stone. The ridge approached. The tanks behind roared louder. Tracer fire sliced the air. Each red streak a signature on their death warrant. The helicopter climbed, slow, aching. The watch on her wrist said 03:17, still frozen, still lying. A shell screamed overhead, too close. Another hit the ridge beside her, spraying stone. One rock cracked the canopy. A spiderweb of glass spread across her view. She didn't blink, didn't move. She flew through the spiderweb. Finally, they cleared the ridge. The valley shrank behind them. The tanks became insects. The smoke became memory, but the fuel needle was gone. Buried below zero. The engine choked once, coughed twice. Silence followed. The rotors slowed. Air whined through them like a funeral song. Olivia's hands were steady. Her voice was steady. Brace. The helicopter fell toward the desert. The desert rose fast, brown, flat, hard. Marines locked arms with straps. Eyes squeezed shut. The ramp chief gripped the tags in his pocket. They rattled like dice waiting for fate's throw. Olivia tilted the nose. Not straight down, not straight level. A shallow kiss instead of a punch. The helicopter slammed. Skids bent. Metal screamed. Dust exploded around them. It slid, scraping, grinding. Sparks spat from the belly. The world tilted, tipped, almost rolled. Then it stopped. Silence, a silence too big, too sharp. The Marines opened their eyes. Alive. All of them. The ramp chief laughed once. It sounded wrong. Like a laugh borrowed from another life. Olivia unstrapped. Her hands shook only now after. The watch on her wrist was cracked worse. Still frozen at 03:17. Still telling the same lie. Boots hit dust. Marines stumbled out, blinking at the wide sky. The storm had passed. The horizon was clear, but not empty distant tracks. Engines rumbling. The tanks had found the ridge. They were coming. One Marine pointed east. A road shimmered, dusty, endless but free. We walk? Someone asked. We run, Olivia said. They started down the road, boots pounding. Every step pulled by hope, pushed by fear. Behind them, the helicopter sat broken. A carcass on the sand. Olivia looked back once. She touched the cross etched in the console. Not goodbye, not thank you, something in between. The empty wallet was still on base, but she felt it here. A weight of nothing in her chest. She owed no one, except these men, except herself. The tanks roared closer. The Marines stumbled faster. The road stretched on, dusty and cruel, and from the far end, a sound, a vibration. Not tracks, not shells. Rotors faint at first, then louder. A new bird cutting the air. Or was it too late? Olivia raised her eyes. The sky answered with a shadow. The sky trembled. A shadow grew larger. Rotors beat the desert like a drum of salvation. The Marines froze. Their boots stopped mid-run. Eyes lifted. Some dropped to their knees. Not from faith. From exhaustion. From disbelief. The new helicopter broke the horizon. A twin rotor bird, heavier, meaner. It swooped in low, teeth bared with side guns. Not protocol. Not waiting. Just flying. Olivia's chest ached. She didn't cheer. Didn't weep. She just stood, dust whipping her face, broken watch heavy on her wrist, her empty wallet somewhere back at base still holding its nothing. She wondered if that nothing had bought all this. The Marines raised arms, shouting hoarse. The bird answered with a bank, flares hissing like fireflies in daylight. The tanks halted at the ridge. Guns swung upward. Shells cracked. The bird dodged, dipped, answered with bursts of fire. Rounds cut the desert, pinning armor, daring it to advance. The ramp slammed down. Move! Olivia shouted. She didn't wait to lead. She shoved the nearest Marine forward, then another, then another. They surged toward the bird, wounded carried by the strong carried by will alone. Boots pounded the dusty road. Each step a heartbeat, each heartbeat borrowed, a shell struck behind them. The earth kicked. Men stumbled, rose again, pushed harder. The ramp swallowed them. The cabin filled with groans, shouts, clattering gear. The smell of blood and gunpowder thick as truth. Olivia lingered at the edge, her boots still on sand, eyes fixed on the broken helicopter they had left behind. Her bird, her partner, now a carcass, ribs open to the sun. The ramp chief yelled, "Get in!" She didn't move. Not yet. The tank stirred again, creeping forward. One turret swung toward the bird. The barrel glinted, a metallic stare. She stepped inside. Ramp slammed. Engines roared. The bird lifted. Tracer fire chased them into the sky. Shells burst below. The desert shrank. The tanks shrank. The pit shrank. Echo Battalion, what was left of it, was airborne. Inside, men sat in silence. Some clutched rifles without bullets. Some clutched each other. One clutched a helmet that wasn't his. Another pressed his forehead to a bandaged leg and whispered, Thank yous no one heard. The ramp chief reached into his pocket. He pulled the bundle of tags. He laid them in Olivia's lap. She didn't look, didn't count. Numbers were crueler than silence. Her eyes found the watch instead, still frozen at 03:17, still refusing to mark what had passed. Maybe that was right. Maybe time had stopped in the valley and they had stolen this moment outside it. A Marine across from her lifted a canteen. He shook it empty. The sound was sharp, hollow, like the wallet she'd left behind. They locked eyes. He smiled anyway. The helicopter climbed higher. Mountains slid away. The storm fell behind like a curtain pulled across a stage. The radio crackled. Orders waiting. Questions waiting. Punishments waiting. Olivia didn't answer. She leaned her head back against the cabin wall. Her eyes closed just for a second. The rotors hummed steady, a lullaby sung by steel. When she opened her eyes, the Marines were still staring at her. Some with awe, some with confusion, some with a kind of quiet devotion that scared her more than bullets. She shook her head. I didn't save you, she said. You saved yourselves. I just refused to let you die where they left you. No one argued. No one thanked her. They just breathed. And for now, breathing was enough. The base appeared on the horizon. A strip of asphalt scratched into the desert. Trucks. Tents. Figures running. The bird descended. The ramp dropped. Light poured in.